Hey, yes, it's back to interviews with me here on Scar Bearers for episode 133. I was thinking about that number, what important significance it has. It's actually a multiple 7. So there you go. Anyway, I'm Chris DT Gordon. I hope you're having a fantastic day because I definitely am, because you're here listening to this. And if you could, please give me a like, subscribe to the podcast or YouTube channel, as it were, and just share these episodes with others so we can spread hope and inspiration to all who need it. Well, folks, today I am joined by my new friend, Penny Lyons-Johnston. How are you today, Penny?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, thank you. Now, we are natives of different countries, but we are both siblings. You live in Ontario and I live in Minnesota in the United States, but we are NF siblings. Though, for those who are just joining us for the first time, NF is a common abbreviation I use for necrotizing fasciitis, which is a form of flesh-eating bacteria. So with those kinds of messages, I'm going to give a care warning. We're going to talk about something that might be triggering or just might give you the heebie-jeebies, however you see it. But anyway, Penny, as I said, we are connected in that way, though I believe it came upon you a different way than it did for me. So if you wouldn't mind telling us how things were before you encountered NF, and then take us through your story, if you could, please.
Absolutely. So before, I'd say I was pretty healthy. I didn't have any major concerns or illnesses, I would say. And I remember vividly, it was a Monday after work, and it was a tough day at work and a tough day for my dad. He had dialysis that day, and it was a difficult day for him. And I thought I'm going to get my frustrations out. So I went out to the garden and I started digging up a rose bush. And I was using my one leg, my left leg, because I'm left-handed, and I was really pounding down on the shovel, thinking, trying to get this rose bush out. And I remember things very differently than my family does. But in my recollection, we went to my sister's house that night and had a campfire, and I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit on the lawn chairs for some reason. It hurt too much. So didn't think a lot of it. Thought probably I pulled a muscle or maybe I've dislocated something. Didn't think a lot of it. Went to bed, intending to go to work the next day, and that didn't happen. It was getting worse and worse. The pain was getting excruciating. I went to see my family doctor. Family doctor said, okay, probably need a chiropractor. You probably just dislocated your hip, so why don't you try that? So tried that. I think that was by the Wednesday, saw the chiropractor. And by then I was already starting to vomit and all that great stuff as well. And the chiropractor couldn't do the adjustment. So that was a female chiropractor. Her husband or her father is also a chiropractor, and he's a great big huge man with great big like bear paws. So she says, you need my dad. I can't move your hip. You need my dad. So went to see her dad. He moved it. And then within I'd say hours, it started getting really red and hot. So we kind of thought something was going on with it, but again,
sorry, I don't mean to stop you there, but I just had a question. When you go back to the gardening, did you scratch yourself at any point? Was there, any contact with a rusty implement?
Nothing. There's no mark on my leg whatsoever. The only mark I did have on my leg was actually on my right side, and it was just from a bug bite, and it had kind of gone a little funky looking. But according to my doctors, flesh-eating disease will never cross your body. So that to them has nothing to do with why I got it. And to this day, we have no idea what sparked it.
Okay.
Because
All right.
I was not using my hip in the garden. I was using my feet. So yeah. I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense.
That's odd. So so going back to the present of the story, your chiropractor's father set your hip and it started getting red and tender.
Exactly. Yes. And it got even more sore. But I was 37 years old. So I'm thinking, get over it, Buttercup. It's just a dislocated hip. I just, nothing, I didn't think much of it. And my kids were going off to school. My husband was going off to work. I was just kind of staying in the spare room because if, moving too much would hurt. And I can remember laying there and seeing crayon drawings all over the walls and thinking to myself, well, that's really weird. When did we let the kids draw on the walls? But at the same time, it didn't seem odd to me. I just thought it was completely normal. Looking back, I was hallucinating, obviously. I didn't realize I was. So fast forward to finally Saturday morning. It was a big festival in our village, and my husband had gone to work at the village or the festival. Kids had gone to it. So I said, okay, I'm going to call my mom. I'll get my mom to take me to the doctor, to the hospital, because this is stupid. I need to have like an adjustment or something to fix it. So my mom comes over, and she and I physically can't get me out of bed, let alone get to the car. So in the meantime, my husband had come home, and he's a police officer in our area. So he came home and he's like, she needs an ambulance. There's just no way that this is gonna, there's no other way of getting her out there. So ambulance comes, and because our village was so congested, we're a population of maybe 5,000 people. We had over 30,000 people in the community that day.
Oh, wow.
So all the streets were gridlocked. And the ambulance, because they're from the entire county, they didn't know how to get safely or quickly to the hospital, like what the fastest route was. So my husband and his police cruiser escorted the ambulance to the hospital. And from there, they took me back and put me in zone 5, thinking, again, not a big deal. But backing up a little bit, I should interrupt, because the paramedics obviously knew there's something really wrong, because I can remember them writing down, he had gloves on, he kept writing down things all over his gloves, all these numbers, and then he had his partner do the same thing, and they'd get all my stats, and then they'd call in to get, what do we do with this poor woman? And they started giving me boluses of fluid, because I was in septic shock, but I didn't know it. And they started giving me morphine. So I had morphine and the fluids before I even got to the hospital. And they put me in zone 5. And I'll never forget the doctor that examined me. She looked into my eyes, and the look over her face just looked like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do with this woman. So moved me to zone 1, which is like for the intensive care, the really high risk people.
Yep.
And they started doing the aspirations into my hip. So they were trying to pull out the fluid to see what was the cause of the infection. And the first doctor wasn't able to do it. I don't know if he didn't go deep enough, or the syringe wasn't long enough, or what it was. But eventually the second doctor was able to do it. And in my mind, it was all orange fluid coming out. Again, I was hallucinating. So whether or not that's true, I don't know. And around the same time they did the central line. I don't remember that happening to me either. And then within like I feel like it was an hour or so, probably sooner, I was taken to surgery.
Okay.
For the first time. Yeah.
So you said that you saw the orange fluid. Was that after you had gotten painkillers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The only reason I ask is because when I woke from my coma, I thought I was at the bottom of a water slide being pummeled by green fluid.
Wow.
And it turns out I was expelling CT fluid, which isn't green.
Weird, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. So it just hearing you say that, it said, okay, that tracks. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you went in for your first surgery.
Yes. So I went in for my first surgery and didn't know it then, but because my husband had a relationship with the emergency department, he knew a lot of the nurses and doctors. They told him in their words that I was swirling the drain, and basically be prepared. She has about a 25% of survival. Yeah. So at this point, he still hadn't told, obviously my children didn't know, but he didn't tell anyone in the family. He just kind of let me go to surgery and went to the waiting room and waited to see what happened. And he was there all by himself the entire time. So I don't know how he ever did it, but he said he watched Breaking Bad. He said he felt like he watched the entire thing of it, because that's all he could do to get his mind off of it.
Yeah.
So first surgery, and I came out, and I still didn't know what was wrong with me. I hadn't been told yet. And I remember waking up in ICU, and my husband was above me, and I said, "Oh, so what was it?" And he says, "Flesh-eating disease." And I remember saying, "Okay." Like it was the weirdest thing, because it didn't. I was never scared. Like I always knew I'd be okay, which is really weird, because most people in that situation would probably be really frightened, I would think.
Again, I'm seeing similarities, because right before I went into surgery, the surgeon sat down in front of me. I was already in a wheelchair, so I was already taking the seat, and he's telling me what's going on. And I could tell, I just remember looking in his face and realizing that he probably is ready for me to start crying or being sad. I acted, do you know who Professor Xavier is from the X-Men?
I know of him, yes.
Yeah. I remember in my mind thinking I must look like a drunk Professor Xavier, because my head's lolling back and forth. I'm in this wheelchair, but I am cocky. I'm like, let's do this. But I don't care. Let's get it done. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I'm at the Mayo Clinic, if I'm going to die, it's not going to be due to lack of trying.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
again, it's really weird that you're told, oh, it's flesh-eating disease. All right.
yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And
So
it's funny because when I talk to people and kind of share my story, they're very surprised that the hospital I went to, which is just like a city over from us, was able to basically take care of me. But our infectious disease doctor, Dr. Sawkatch, was actually trained by Dr. Ross Penny, who's a renowned author and he's a renowned infectious disease doctor. So I was like in the best hands I could possibly be in. And
yeah,
my orthopedic surgeon was phenomenal too. Like he's renowned for himself. So I was in the best care that was even possible. So I was in the right place.
well, that's good. So, after your first surgery, how long were you out?
I don't remember. To me, I feel like I woke up right away, but I don't think I did, obviously.
Yeah.
My husband said I was probably in ICU for about a week.
Hmm.
And I do vaguely remember I turned 38 when I was in the ICU. And I remember the kids and my husband bringing me balloons and cupcakes. And as much as I appreciate it, I remember thinking, how does he think I'm going to eat a cupcake right now?
Yeah.
But it's funny the things that go through your mind, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually I was moved to the surgical floor, and then my care continued on the surgical floor.
Okay. So now, besides your hip, I'm guessing, what parts of your body were affected by the NF?
So they told me that because I had left it, or I didn't leave it, but it had gone on longer than maybe it should have, the septic and the infection was starting to attack some of my organs. But because they caught it in time and gave me such high volumes of antibiotics, I was fine that way.
Oh,
But
wow.
I was lucky. I was lucky from what I was told.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise it was my
Yeah.
hip.
Yeah. Because I mean, you were, that's like 5 days.
It was, yeah,
Yeah. And mine are just shy of that. So yeah, that's a long time for it to be there. But
yeah,
man, that's phenomenal that were able to recover from that, that well. I don't want to say, fully, obviously, but
right.
that well. So you said you were in ICU for a week and they moved you to the surgical unit. How
Yeah.
long total were you in the hospital?
The first time I would say I was at least, I'm gonna say 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
And then I say the first time because I went home with nursing care and I still had the drains were taken out by then, but I still had, it's kind of strange, but I had the ports where the drains were, and then underneath it, it wouldn't close. So they would pack it and then push it through and it would come out the other end. And they kept saying, oh, it's gonna close on its own. It's gonna close on its own. And at home for a few weeks, finally they said it's never gonna close on its own. You need another surgery.
Oh, wow.
So back at it to another surgery where this time they opened it and they started closing me from the inside out this time. And then on top of that, they put the 42 staples in.
Oh, wow.
So I was in the hospital only that time for a week, which surprised me.
Okay.
And I was up and mobile quite quickly. Again, surprisingly, I didn't think I would be.
Okay. Wow. And this took place, I believe, in 2010.
Yes, 2010.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you get done with the second bout in the hospital. Is everything cleared up since then?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
I did have a lot of like scar tissues,
Mm.
and I forget what they're called, keloids, I think, where you have the raised like spots along your surgery line.
Yep.
And I actually, with the help of a chiropractor, they helped break down those keloids for me.
Yep.
Otherwise, they're quite sore because they're being pulled all the time and they're raised, and now it's fairly flat, which is nice. I do have a pretty good indent from the parts that they had to remove from me,
Yep.
but as far as the keloids go, they're pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. This is part of mine. This part right here, trying to show you,
Yeah.
curves around. This is actually from my left thigh.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And so I call it my fan because it's my thigh on my hand.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were talking about the keloid, right? Here's mine right here, and
Yeah.
it's a little bumpy, but it settles right in to the skin grafts. Now, in that area where you were affected, do you find that the wiring in your nerves is a little off kilter? Because I can hit one part of my fan and I feel it in a whole different area of my arm.
No, I don't think that, but I do find it's very sensitive. Like even with my osteopath,
Yep.
when she goes to start to adjust the bottom half of me and onto my like my buttock cheek, I always jump right away. It's very, very sensitive. And she's like, "Oh,
Okay.
sorry," but she always thinks that she's caught me off guard, and it's not that. It's just that it's so hypersensitive
Yeah.
that as soon as anyone touches it, it's I don't know. Maybe it's partly to do with I'm expecting pain too, but it doesn't hurt like that anymore. It's not the same, but it's not painful.
Okay. So might be a bit psychosomatic, perhaps.
Maybe. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, so moving forward, how did this experience change your outlook on
It's
life or anything?
everything. Everything. I was working in my career. I'd been there for 28 years by the time I left, so that would have been about 4 years after I had an F. And it just changed my perspective on everything. Like life is way too short, and start taking chances and start doing the things that I want to do, not the things I should do based on other people's opinions.
Mhm.
I used to shit all over myself all the time, and I don't do that anymore.
Well,
I
good.
just, yeah, I do what I want to do now.
Yeah, and plus that's so hard to clean off.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So tell me, what are some things that you've done to, to celebrate this new outlook on life?
I left my career of 28 years. Like I was always taught you go to school and you get a job, you stay there until the end, you retire. I left and I retired. I think I was retired. I was like 46 years old and started my own business, and I've never looked back. Like it's just been like those things. I don't think I would have ever taken that chance or that risk. I think I would have always been, doing what I was told I should do. And I don't do that anymore.
That's fantastic. What kind of business are you in now?
Health and wellness, believe it or not. Yeah.
That kind of falls in line with what I'm doing now. So
Yeah.
how do you serve others?
So basically, I look for a need to help other people. So whether it be their health, their a lot of to do it with like gut health. Gut health is really, really important to me, and I find if I can find people that can help with our products, with the pre and probiotics and micro, all the different things to help with our gut heal it. It makes a huge difference, and then it just affects every part of your life. So you start feeling better from the inside, then you start looking better on the outside, and then you just have a different confidence about yourself, and it just I love it. It's such a great feeling.
So, what kind of services do you offer? Do you do like group coaching, individual coaching, class?
um, I can do. We also do a lot of group online things. So, like for example, we run a 30 days to healthy living program on Facebook, so people can join that. And there's no purchase necessarily, but it's all about accountability, community, culture, and we do things like exercise. We meditate. We do things like yoga instructions. So it changes every day, and each person contributes in different ways. But it's just about the overall health and well-being of people, and just trying to see that there is a better way of living.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
some people get so stuck in their modes. Like you were explaining how you were always taught, well, you get a job after college and you work that job. And
Exactly.
so switching someone's thought process about, say, food
Yeah,
is a huge gear change because it's so ingrained in your personality
exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah,
And so, but by changing that, you do change the person, as you said, from the inside out.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Really focus on nutrition products, which is, huge. And it's not something I don't think I would have done before. Like I was always very conscious of what I put in my body, but I had no idea about, toxins that are in everyday products. I had no idea about that kind of stuff. And not that it would have changed anything, but I just feel like the healthier I can be, and the best version of myself I can be now is what I'm going to do.
well, that's a fantastic endeavor. Do you have any like go-to snacks that you have, on a daily basis that maybe even you never thought you enjoy before this change?
Yeah, so like things I've been finding, I've been adding things to my salads like hemp hearts and chia seeds, and eating more kale, and just more variety, and making sure I'm eating from the rainbow. So making sure that you're not just having, like I would have been the person who ate the same thing every day. My old staff probably would laugh at me now because I was that girl that ate a grilled cheese sandwich in the toaster oven every single day, probably for years, because I just, it's easy, just do it, but not
Right.
realizing that you have to have variety in your diet, and that's not going to cut it, right? So
I do like how you said eat the rainbow. I think taste the rainbow is already taken. And
Right.
so
Yes.
you might face some litigation there. So, but no,
Yeah.
that's great advice.
Yeah.
So, what is what's on tap for the near future with your business, or maybe with you personally, Penny?
There's lots. So lots are always happening with the business. I'm really excited about that. I'm always looking to help people. So if there's anyone out there who is looking for healthier options, healthier choices, I'd love for them to reach out, because that's, you don't know what you don't know. And the more I learn, the more I realize all the things that I've been doing in the past may not have been serving me. So I really love that about it. Now that the world has started to open up a bit more, we haven't traveled for quite a while. So I really want to get back into travel. Travel is still in my blood. I always call myself a travel geek because I was in the travel industry for so long. So that's another thing that I want to start doing more. We actually went to the States just for a day trip a couple weeks ago. First time we crossed the border in years because of COVID and all that stuff. So just great to be out in the world again.
Yeah, no, you said you went to Niagara Falls, right?
Yeah, which Niagara Falls for our conference, our national conference here in Canada over the past weekend, which was phenomenal. You have to look at all my reels and my posts about that. But just the culture and just being part of a community again, like, thousands of people that are like-minded, and being in person was huge, because we haven't done that for so long. Everything's been virtual. I've done virtual conference from Vegas. I've done virtual conferences from Canada, and it's not the same as when you're in person.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I
Yeah.
actually participated in a conference up in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota last month, and it was so nice to see actual people on actual stages and have
Exactly.
actual conversations that you can't mute, you know.
Right.
And so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What is if you had to pick one place that you would always like, a happy place that you've traveled to, what would that be?
I'm a geek. I love Disney.
Okay.
I would say Disney. As far as, yeah, I'm such a, like, we took our kids to Disney almost every year, and they're now 25 and 21. So, yeah, I just love Disney. It's just my jam. I love it.
No, that's all
I mean,
right. That's all
I
right.
want to go lots of places. I know I've been lots of places. I've been very fortunate over my career to have been lots of places, but Disney just has a soft spot for me.
I hear you. No, we took our kids to Disney for the first time in March,
Nice,
and I received one of my very favorite souvenirs. This is from Galaxy's Edge.
nice.
I'm not sure if you're a Star Wars fan.
My husband and my son are. I'm not so much.
Okay, this is a thermal detonator Coca-Cola. You can see
Oh, cool.
and
Yeah,
they wrote,
I recognize the Coca-Cola right away.
yeah, they wrote it in Arabic, which is the Star Wars language.
That's
But
so cool.
I don't drink Coke, but I saw this and I said, all right, I'm paying the $6. I'm grabbing this.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but I do agree that there is something about Disney, no, and you can say what you want about prices and all the different drama that goes along with it. It is magical.
It
You
totally is
know,
magical. I totally agree.
yeah,
And I think too, because my parents took me there as a child, and many times we traveled with my parents and the children to Disney. So it's just a special place for us.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I do find it's funny though that you work in the travel industry would mention, oh, Disney,
Yeah,
because I was
exactly.
thinking, oh yeah, I've been to Machu Picchu and
Exactly.
I've climbed the Andes, but no, I
Yeah.
mean that you
Yeah.
like what you like, and
You do. Exactly.
I love your excitement for it. You're like, oh, I'm Disney, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it totally is. And Disney Cruise Line too. It's pretty amazing too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And I know my wife and I have talked about it and said we're probably done with Disney, but you never know what happens. So
It's funny because I would have thought that about myself too, and obviously I'm not. But the first Disney cruise we went on when my daughter was 3, they had like assigned seating, and so there was the 3 of us for dinner, and there was grandma and grandpa who were on the ship with no children, and then a single mom and her child and her daughter. So it's literally for anyone. Like grandma and grandpa doing a Disney cruise with no children. Like it's literally for anyone.
yeah, no, you like what you like.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. So how could people reach out to you, Penny, if they wanted to get in contact with you just to chat or maybe improve their health?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So on my website, or sorry, I'll give you my Facebook page. Is my name, Penny Lyons-Johnston. My handle for Instagram is PLyonsJ, kind of like my name. And my website is www.pennylyonsjohnston.arbonne.com.
Okay. And now all that will be in the show notes so people can reach out to you. And so I always like asking people, because I am a gratitude guy, what is something that you may not have thought of being grateful for in a previous time that you can't believe that you are grateful for now?
I'm going to say my health, honestly, because I think I took it for granted. I think I always thought, I was 37, I was young, nothing's going to harm me. People don't get sick when they're my age. They only get sick when they're older. So my health, I think I literally took it for granted, assuming it would always be there. And I'm so friggin' grateful for it that I've come through.
That's fantastic, Penny. And my final question, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Okay, so you asked me that before and I came up with this lame answer. And then my husband's like, why didn't you say Barney? And Barney, to me, I know it seems funny, but we were at Turks and Caicos at Beaches Resort back in the day. Again, my daughter was probably about 3, and Barney was there.
Yep.
So Barney has a huge, that's Barney was a big deal back then. So I'm gonna say Barney.
You know what? That's good. I've heard Dino. I heard someone mention themselves. It's okay. It's your favorite dinosaur I treat as an avatar for yourself.
Right.
or something that reflects who you are, or maybe some fond, as you say, fond memory of your life. So that's fine. We'll go with Barney.
That sounds good.
Well, Penny, I am so grateful and thankful to have met you today, especially on this, your very first podcast interview. You did fantastic, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And so, folks, if you want to reach out to Penny to find out what she has going on in the world of health, please check out the show notes below. As always, please find me at chrisdtgordon.com. You can at me at chrisdtgordon.com. And please like this episode because it helps with people finding me. Share this episode, subscribe to the podcast, all that good stuff. You know what to do. Well, with that, I want to thank you so much for being here with me. I love you all. Please have a great day. And remember to pass on perfection and go for greatness.